We've all had that person in our lives who constantly needs reassurance, whether it's your partner asking, "Do you really love me?" for the 10th time this week, your mom needing praise every time she tries something new, or a coworker who looks to you for approval on every decision. These interactions can leave you feeling exhausted, frustrated, and even a little bit resentful. But why are some people like this? And more importantly, what can you do to manage these relationships while staying compassionate and maintaining your own boundaries? In today's episode, I'll answer all your questions because you know I love to, and give you my 5-step process for what you can do to create more balanced and healthy relationships with these people in your life. So stay tuned. Hey, I'm Dr. Abby Medcalf, as you know, and you are here with the Relationships Made Easy podcast, and I'm happy to have you. And once again, great question from someone out in the audience, and I'm so happy to answer it here. I'm going to be making some awesome new announcements about the upcoming Patreon, which is starting in the week of January 13th. With some more specifics and a free, because I love you, because January is a short month, I'm going to offer the 2 weeks in January for free. So your billing wouldn't start until February, and there's the 3 tiers. So you can choose what works for you. There's a bonus if you prepay, blah, blah. I'm going to cover all that at the very end. So let's get to it now. So if you're here right now, it's because you're in some type of relationship where the other person consistently seeks out your support, agreement, assurance, but you already know it's never enough. They're saying things like, you say you love me and you do X, Y, and Z, you do all these things, but do you really? And you're face palming. Like, are you kidding me? And you might feel loving and patient once or twice when this comes up. Like, of course I love you, and here's why. Remember last week we did this, and today I did that, and oh, I tell you I love you all the time, and you're beautiful, and I could never want anyone more, and blah, blah. So you do that a few times, but then their constant need for approval, reassurance, validation has you so exasperated. Like, it just gets to be too much. So some of you walk away. You just start to really distance yourself from the relationship, or you snap, you get angry, you respond. We get some compassion fatigue after a bit, which I did an episode completely on, which I'll link to in the show notes. Right. But then you're the bad person. You're the bad guy or gal, right? It's so unfair. And now they feel, because you snapped or walked away, now they feel even more disconnected from you. So their need for reassurance, now it's in overdrive. And you find yourself probably really trapped in this kind of unhealthy cycle where no matter what you do, it seems to, it doesn't work, number one, because they keep coming back. And you seem to get in trouble no matter what you try. No matter how fabulous you are, wonderful you are, you can't seem to find the right balance to get to where you want to go, which is them believing you. And, you might even be at a point where you feel like walking away from this relationship because it feels so exhausting. Needing constant reassurance and validation is all about that person's insecurity. Hard stop. Hard stop. It is not about anything else. It's that simple. It's not easy, but it's simple. Now, why they are insecure can have many roots, which I'll talk about. But when it comes to what you should do when someone needs constant reassurance and validation, it's all about dealing with their insecurity, not trying to reassure or reason with them. I know that's what you've been likely doing. And it's why you feel drained in this relationship, or annoyed or resentful or over it. So some of the signs I see most commonly in clients and people in my own world, the more frequent signs are things like of constant checking. They're repeatedly asking for confirmation about your feelings, decisions, opinions. Are you sure you're not mad at me? Are you sure? Over apologizing. They say sorry excessively, even for things that don't even warrant an apology. The other thing I see a lot of is they might be seeking some kind of praise or validation for small actions. They need recognition for routine tasks or minor achievements. And again, they need them often. Another common sign is difficulty making decisions. Maybe they can't act without asking for your input or approval. Constant texting, calling, even liking your stuff on social media or just being there all the time on social media. They seek like continual connection, again, to feel secure. And I'm going to throw another one in here that I know I'm going to have some keyboard warriors pissed at me, so get ready. And you don't need to be, by the way. If you don't agree, just move on. But I will tell you, wanting constant physical touch, I might get some hate for this, but I'm going to be honest with you. So what I hear from people sometimes is, well, that's my love language. First of all, the love languages are largely bullshit. I say with so much love in my heart. I did an entire episode on the love languages, the research behind them, and the lack thereof. I really have found people use the love languages as such an excuse. So there's, scarce or little scientific evidence about them. It was created by a pastor. Anyway, don't even get me started. Go listen there if you want. And I actually have been complimented that I gave a very even review. I was really not in the hate camp, and I'm still not in the hate camp. I think it's fun to take that test. I've taken it. I am a words of affirmation gal. Not shocking when you hear me, right? I love to talk. I love to write. I do. But if someone says their love language is physical touch, that's fine that you like that. But if the only way you can feel love is with physical touch, then that's a mental health issue. It's like saying I can only feel calm once I've had a drink. I need that I just sit with it before you get defensive or jump in. No. I totally relate to really loving when someone, when my man, compliments me in a certain way or tells me he loves me or writes how much he loves me in a card. And those are things I ask for. But if I never got a card again from him, I would very much know he loves me. Okay. I wouldn't, it would be okay. He gives me those cards with the words because, he listens, but it's not something for him. He doesn't want them at all. He's an acts of service guy. So I get it. I get it when you're talking about this stuff, but you can't say that it's like a cop out when you say, well, I need these because that's my love language. No, you've got a million love languages. We all have a million. And you need to, again, if it's so restricted, love is not scarce, people. Love is abundant. Love is big. Love is so huge that when you try to bring it down to some tiny little area like that, that's not love, that's fear. That's fear. And if you're telling people this is the only way you can feel something, that's a problem. Again, to me, that's a mental health issue. And and I love physical touch. I'm one of those physical touch kind of gals, but it is not the only way. Again, the only way I feel love. And I don't need to constantly be touching Gary. I don't have to constantly be all over him. I'm okay if we're not. And it's not I'm looking for lots of other things too. In sort of a healthier, more well-rounded relationship, we're looking for many things. And we're trying to notice many things. I'm not ever trying to prove that he doesn't love me. I'm looking for the evidence that he does, and I see it everywhere. So that's all I'm saying. I hope I said that well. Okay, I'm leaving it. So let's talk about why some people need constant reassurance and validation before we get to what you want to do, because it might change your approach in some subtle ways. It is important to sort of feather these out. So the first reason someone might need all this validation has to do with having a mental health issues. Needing constant reassurance and validation might be linked to a mental health issue like anxiety, right? They might have a lot of anxiety, so need to hear it. Borderline personality disorder is another one where that can crop up a lot. When there's a mental health issue, especially anxiety, the amygdala, which I talk about a lot, right? The fear center of your brain, it becomes hyperactive in people who are anxious. So it signals danger even when there's nothing. And that sort of heightened state makes that person feel quite insecure. And so they seek external validation to feel safe, right? So it could all be related to that. And these are all, I'm going to give you like a few reasons why, and they all sort of overlap, but I'm going to try to separate them a little bit. The second is that I see a lot is some sort of childhood dysfunction or trauma. You know, if someone grows up in a dysfunctional house or has experienced trauma in their childhood, being insecure is a likely outcome. And mostly this boils down to a deep fear of abandonment or rejection. Again, I did a whole episode on that, so I'll link to it. If you're watching on YouTube, I link to it below the video. Please like and subscribe and maybe leave a comment. I love to see your lovely comments. If you have hate, leave it somewhere else. And obviously you can come to the website, abbymedcalf.com, and go to the relationship tips and tools page. I write up a whole blog for every episode. And there's a show notes page too where the podcast is. All the links are there. All that stuff is there. Any research I quote, all of it is there. And when we have Patreon, you're going to have a little space where everything's in one place. How fun is that going to be? I know. All the handouts, all the stuff is all going to be, and all the links and all the resources are going to be in one place. That's just one of the ways I'm going to show you I love you in our new little community. Okay. So people with a fear of abandonment, you know, that deep fear of abandonment or rejection are, you know, often seen as clingy or needy or, you know, needing that constant reassurance, right? So they seek it. They seek constant validation or from others to feel secure in that relationship. I don't think it takes, you know, Freud to figure that out, right? So, and again, this can involve excessive texting or calling. Again, a strong desire to be physically close to that person. They may go out of their way to please others, often at their own expense, by the way, right? Unmet needs during childhood are all a part of this. I'm trying to think of how I want to say this. Okay, yeah. So under this umbrella of childhood, you know, dysfunction or trauma or neglect or any of those, we also can see things like, you know, the other things that can result in this insecurity are inconsistent parenting. Like if a parent was loving and attentive one moment, but neglectful or critical the next, right? That kid could grow up constantly seeking reassurance to avoid those, again, feelings of rejection or abandonment. You could have grown up with very overprotective caregivers, you know, parents or caregivers who were overly involved in their kids' decisions might, you know, unintentionally teach that kid to depend on others for validation. I had a client once years ago who she had a hard time getting dressed each day because all through growing up, her mother used to tell her what to wear and they would talk together. It was a very much like reciprocal, you know, it's not like the client hated it. She loved it. They would go shopping together. The mother would help her pick out the clothes she would wear. And then, you know, when she started living on her own as an adult, she didn't know what her like style was, you know, like, who am I? Like, what's my style? What do I like? I'm not even sure. And this is not uncommon. So another thing we might see is, you know, in childhood are things like a lot of criticism or, you know, conditional love. If you had any kind of childhood marked by, again, like a critical, judgmental parent or caregiver, you likely become an adult who seeks constant affirmation to counteract those feelings of inadequacy. Okay. And then related to this, I think I'll just put it like as number 3, we'll say, is your attachment style, which of course comes from your childhood. And I've done a couple episodes on attachment style. I'm not going to go deep into that, but you can go back and listen. I highly recommend you do. Again, I'll put up the links. People with an anxious attachment style, which of course, again, is formed early in your childhood, tend to rely heavily on external validation. That's just what is. They grow up associating love and safety with approval and reassurance from, again, the caregiver or the adults in their lives. And these people they didn't learn how to self-soothe, so they rely on others to regulate their emotions. I know, sounds crazy, but it's true. Okay, so hopefully that gives you a really good feel for what I'm talking about before I get to the steps, what to do. And hopefully it'll help you as I name these steps to have the empathy and the other things I'm going to ask you to have when dealing with this person. Okay? So are we ready? All right. You can't answer me. I hate that part. But you will on Patreon. Okay. So I can't wait. So let's talk about, so these are what are these? These are my 5 steps for dealing with someone who needs constant reassurance and validation. How's that? Is that pretty clear? All right. Because you want to navigate these relationships while maintaining compassion and your own boundaries. That to me was the goal when I laid out the 5 steps. Okay. So step 1, empathy. That's step 1. First things first. I want you to be empathetic without being sympathetic. I talk about this so much. I'm going to repeat it again. You can acknowledge someone's feelings without doing anything. And that is the difference. Empathy is thinking of a time when you might have felt this feeling. So you might think of that if your partner's really, let's say it's your partner, but it could be your mom, could be a coworker, could be whoever. And they're giving you all this insecurity. I want you to think of a time, because even any of us who are very secure have had, unless we're like sociopaths, we've had times when we felt insecure. Of course, everyone has. Even if you're learning a new skill, you might have felt insecure in the learning, right? I was in a lot of sports when I was young. There was a little insecurity in the beginning as you're learning to get good at something. Of course there is. That's a healthy insecurity. That's not a unhealthy one, but you felt it before. So empathy would be that you would not putting yourself in this person's shoes in this situation. That's the mistake people make. They're like, well, I would never feel this way if my partner said, when my partner says they love me, I believe them. So I don't understand what the problem is here. Instead, you would think not of that, you're not trying to empathize with the situation. You're trying to empathize with the feeling. And so the feeling is this insecurity. Okay. This feeling is this fear of abandonment, fear of rejection. And think of a time when you had that in your life. That's your empathy. Now, again, empathy, not sympathy. Sympathy is when you do something. I always give the example, if your best friend's dad dies, yeah, it's fine to do things, to say, oh my gosh, can I come over? Can I cook some food for you? Is there, can I help you? Do you want me to go to the funeral home with you? Do you want me to help you make arrangements? Like what I'll cover for you at work, whatever, right? You do, because that's appropriate in those situations. But what happens with a partner who needs constant validation and is insecure in these ways is that you end up trying to, you've been doing it. You've been like, no, I'm not. It's this way. No, I really do love you. And here's all the reasons why. You're like in a doing mode, or you might actually do something. Tomorrow we'll spend the whole day together. Next week we'll go on vacation. You're trying to fix it. Do not fix, just acknowledge. Just acknowledge their feelings. Don't do anything. Don't reassure. Don't do any of the other pieces, which I'll talk about that in a minute. But so what you want to do is acknowledge, wow, it's hard to see you in so much pain. That's it. This seems really hard for you. There you go. You're done. That's it. And then shut up. I say with so much love in my heart, shut up. This is the hardest part, even for me. Please, I sit here, right? I teach you and I say all these things. The joke we always make is that we teach what we need to learn. So whenever I'm doing these episodes, please know I'm in the boat with you. I don't have some perfect life where I do all this perfectly, because everything's a practice. I've practiced it enough that I'm better at it. I'm way better than I used to be, but no one's perfect at it. It's impossible. I have bad days just like anybody else. So I do want to be clear. As I'm sitting here preaching to you, I also am preaching to myself. I'm reminding myself, which is one of the reasons I'm so grateful to do the podcast, because I get to learn again. I get to remind myself. I get to be in it. And it's immensely helpful to my life. Okay. So acknowledge the feeling, but don't do anything. Okay. And step 2 is don't reassure. Do not, I repeat, do not, under any circumstances, reassure or validate. You already know this is a losing game. You already have been doing it. It doesn't work. Stop it. What you're doing in that moment is enabling this unhealthy behavior. When you think of it that way, you're hurting this other person. You are hurting your coworker, your partner, your dad, your brother, your friend. You are hurting them because you're enabling their unhealthy behavior. You're enabling them to think it's about you, not them. You're enabling them not to address this problem. Again, if someone was an alcoholic, it's like you're at the bar buying them drinks. You know it doesn't fix it, but you're doing it to like shut them up. It's, or to whatever, or because you think, I don't know what you think. But that's how I kind of have to, you need to see it. You are not helping a situation at all. So after you acknowledge their feelings, your only job really is to be silent. That's it. And they'll try again. They'll be like, well, do you love me? Maybe you don't. It sounds like you're going through a lot with wondering about my love. It pains me that it really is painful to see you in hurting like this. That's it. If you need to, then you can ask questions to help the other person, to help them, understand their own behavior and what they, not you, what they need to do about it. You can do that. You can ask questions. I told you I told you I loved you. Talk to me. What about that doesn't say I love you? Talk to me about how love needs to show up in your life and in our relationship. Let's talk about whatever it is. It's not always love, but I'm just throwing that one out there. But you can tell me more about, me with the collaborative questions, right? That's my favorite collaborative question. Tell me more about what you think you'll get out of me telling you that everything is fine. Because I've said everything's fine a few times already, and that hasn't worked. So let's talk about something that would work. Let's shift this. Clearly that doesn't work. And clearly you're still in pain. So clearly this isn't about me, because I've already said the things. What can you do, right? And that brings us to step 3, which is you got to set your boundaries. You have to be clear about your boundaries when it comes to their asking for constant reassurance or validation. You got to be clear about your boundaries. If this comes up as this also wanting physical touch, sex, or wanting to spend every possible moment together, a great boundary to have is that you'll never repeat an answer. So for example, excuse me, I burped. For example, if they ask, do you love me? And you've answered very much, don't answer it again if they ask again. That's it. Or you can ask, well, what did you hear before? You asked me that earlier. What did you hear before? Did you hear me say it back or no? Again, stop the conversation. Bring it to the here and now. Bring it to the present. Make it mindful. Don't just keep saying, well, I already said it, and blah, blah, or get mad at them or frustrated. I want you to have that empathy. It's very important right now. But again, empathy, not sympathy. The sympathy is what gets you so resentful and angry. Okay? Another great boundary is if you say I love you, and let's say they say really, don't remark on it. Don't go give any response at all. Just a smile, just, maybe a tilt to the head. Don't get sucked in or give a list of all the ways you're loving. I know. That's what you've done before. You gave a list. You never support me. And so you give a list of all the ways you've supported them. That is not the answer ever, right? You might say instead, well, let's talk about how, you can't think of one time I've ever supported you? Well, I didn't mean never, but it's so, you don't really. Well, let's talk about it. What does support look like to you? So yesterday when I picked up your dry cleaning, for example, on the way home from work, did that not feel supportive? Because I don't need to stop there. If that doesn't ring any bells for you, then I don't need to do that, and I'll just let you do it. That's fine. I'll put my energy into another way to support you that feels more loving. So let's talk about it. What is it that you need to feel? Well, I need to hear that you love me more. Or I need you to show up. Sometimes people say that. I need you to show up more. What does showing up look like for you? I feel like I do show up. What does showing up look like for you? I need some specifics because clearly I'm doing it wrong or I'm not doing it in a way you can see or feel or hear. So let's talk about it. My experience when you start to really go after with that logical, calm voice. Now, sometimes the other person will get very upset. Well, if you don't know how to support me by now, then you really don't love me. I've heard that. I've had that in session with a couple. I mean, can you hear it's like, okay. Like, there's nothing to respond to that. Don't go chasing them. Don't go do anything. This is about them. And at that point, I would have a boundary of saying that to them. This is about you. You're having a response. Your response is not adult, frankly, but maybe don't say that. It's a little mean. You could just say, I can't have these conversations with you like this. We need to have productive conversations. And you using always and never language is never productive. You telling me this sort of broad brushstrokes of us and our relationship is never productive. You not being able to give me examples is certainly not productive and makes me think it's not something I'm doing. I think this is about you, not me. You can draw that boundary and try to have a productive conversation from there. Like you're looking for a productive conversation. Let me be clear, not to be right. You're looking to have a productive conversation. And, and please, I love you. I'd love for us to be able to talk about this. I don't like that this is going on in the relationship. Or, Mom, it's really a problem for me when you act this way, because then I don't want to spend time with you because I feel so frustrated and I love you and I do want to spend time with you. I want to look forward to coming over. But when we have these kind of conversations, I don't. So I want us to get to the bottom of this so we can be closer. Do you see the difference there? Do you see what's happening here? Wouldn't you feel good if someone said this to you? I know you would. Of course you would. Because it feels good. You're leading with love. You're leading with, I want to feel close to you. I want to and you do. I'm looking for a way in. And when we have these kind of conversations, I feel disconnected. I feel resentful. I feel overwhelmed. I feel sad. And all I want to do is not be in your space. And so let's work on this. Do you see? Saying, what did you just hear me say is really helpful too. When, again, if I don't know what you say, and then they say, well, you never support me. And then you can just stop and go, whoa, where'd that come from? What did you just hear me saying? Talk to me. What did you just hear? And again, be open to learning something, not proving something. Be curious. And when, if you tell them you love them or do something for them, you can also ask them in that moment about their experience of that conversation or that moment. It's like, even if they haven't said, like, you don't love me or you don't support me, or, you never say I'm beautiful anymore, you never say I'm handsome anymore, or whatever that, again, constant validation or whatever is. When it is there, you can, when you are connected, you can ask, like, what is this experience? Like, talk to me, learn about what it is I have that makes them feel good or close or calms their nervous system. Often I have people who think that they're very connected to someone and, and then that other person does not feel connected at all. So it's like really learning what it is for someone else, not for you. You might be feeling really good about things, and then you find out that your partner, your sister, your friend does not. So these are really good questions to ask to get to the bottom of things. And y'all know by now, I think, that I wrote my fabulous book, Boundaries Made Easy, which is fast becoming a bestseller. Like my first book, Be Happily Married Even If Your Partner Won't Do a Thing, which is an Amazon #1 bestseller. But buy the book already. I don't know what to say to you. Like, I think it'd be really helpful to know your boundaries better and to do that work. I'm really proud of that book. And I'm not sure when you're listening to this because I pre-record these, but my Boundaries Made Easy workbook is coming out before Christmas. So depending on of 2024. So depending on when you're listening to this, the workbook might be out. And I am so proud of the workbook. You want to go deep. And if you like the book, you're going to love the workbook. There's even more. Yeah, I mean, you don't have to. They both stand alone. You don't have to buy the book to get the workbook either because they stand alone. And a lot of what's in the book, of course, is repeated in the workbook. But then I add just a ton of workbook stuff, journaling prompts and exercises and thought exercises and all kinds of things. So if you're looking, there's a lot of what to do and how to create your boundaries and what to do, how to troubleshoot. And there are a ton of action steps. You know how I am. I always give it, right? I always bring it. There's a lot of that in just the book. But if you're someone who likes a workbook style and wants to really dig super deep, then you want the workbook. Okay. But if you want both, get both. There's going to be no audio version of the workbook, but of course there is an audio version of the book itself, the Boundaries Made Easy book, and my Be Happily Married book. They both have audio versions. If that's something you like, because you love my melodic voice, you're here with me now. Okay. Step 4. Are you with me? Let's be with me. We're here. Step 4 is loving detachment. I know. So now that you have healthy boundaries in place, do you see how these kind of go in order, right? You have that empathy, not sympathy, you have that empathy, right? You can work into, then you're not reassuring, but you're doing it from a loving place, and you're making your boundaries, then you have healthy, loving detachment. You got to practice loving detachment. And the emphasis is on the loving. Again, I did an entire episode on loving detachment. Loving detachment is a chapter in the Boundaries book. I got it everywhere. Okay. You can find the blog on the website. Just search the term loving detachment. I mean, it's everywhere. If you want to pay for it, if you want it free, I got your back. So go look it up if you have to or whatever, but I don't want to go over all those steps now because this episode will be 3 hours long. Okay. So practice loving detachment. It means that you detach, you don't take it personally when your loved one is doing this, when this other person is doing this, they're insecure, needing reassurance and validation, but you're loving. That's the compassionate part. You're compassionate and you have empathy for that person. Okay? That's the key. A lot of people get detached, but it's not loving. So let your anger go. This isn't about being angry at the other person. This isn't about being frustrated or resentful. This is about, wow, this person has an issue. Just like anything, I would hope you'd be. If they had, God forbid, cancer, I hope you'd be empathetic, even though they might have come in and out of remission. It might be exhausting dealing with it. They might, even though I'd hope you have compassion. So I want you to have it for mental health issues too. And step 5 is therapy. Okay. If all else fails, if this behavior continues and you just can't find a way out and you really want to stay in relationship with this person for whatever reason, I would suggest therapy. And I did do an episode on how to, quote unquote, convince someone to go to therapy. I do have an episode on that, which I'll also link to. But again, and it should be for them, not you. But I would say if you have to, if you're in a romantic relationship, suggest couples therapy at that point, because a good couples therapist will help with this insecurity and helps your other half, whatever, your other person, your partner, separate that out. But really what they should have is some individual therapy. Often when I get a couple like this in my practice, I know to be recommending individual therapy for one of the people, often both. But that's up to however you want to do that. I don't love this as a first response, you just need to go to therapy. And again, it should come from empathy. It should come from love. It should come from compassion, acknowledging their feelings. This is really hard. This has been very difficult in the relationship. And I would really appreciate it if you would look into doing some therapy around this. You can ask. No matter what, you want to be clear and loving that this is at the very most a we problem, but likely something that they need to work through. You're, again, happy to support them in the process, but you refuse to continue to reassure or validate them and make it that clear. That's your boundary. I will not do it again. If I say I love you, if I do something for you and you question it or you ask me for more or whatever, I am just not, that's my boundary. It's not going to happen. So whatever you need to do on your side to feel better, I know I support you. I know I love you. I know I whatever, but I'm not going to do A, B, and C to prove it. So it's not my it's never your responsibility to make them feel better or to help them feel secure. I know people think, well, other people do things that make me insecure. No, they don't. No, they don't. No, they don't. I know. Well, no, well, he's looking at women's, pictures online, or she flirts every time we go to a party, or I hear it all. Nope. Sorry. You need to have a boundary. This is on you. If my man was flirting at parties, I would have a very clear boundary that there's a bigger problem here if you're finding the need to flirt, if you're so insecure that you feel like you have to flirt to get other female attention, because I would not appreciate that. And to me, that would be a deal breaker, frankly. But like, hey, this is what secure people do. He hasn't made me feel insecure. I see it as a him problem. Like, wow, you would need validation that much from other people. You feel that insecure. My man is not like this, by the way. He's the opposite. Um, that's why, though, I would only be with a secure person, right? I'm not going to be with someone really insecure. And I have been before. I've dated insecure people, but that goes away because I'm not going to play the game, so to speak. I'm not going to be in that. And again, it is not about what someone else does that makes you insecure. You are insecure, and then these things get around you. But it is up to you to have a boundary then. That is no longer that is not acceptable. And if you continue to do it, remember, a boundary has a response, not just what you feel. That really upsets me. If you continue to do that, we'll have to go to couples therapy, or I will leave, or I will never go to parties with you again, or whatever. I don't know what your boundary is. I don't know what the response is going to be to that. That's up to you. But there should be something on the other side. Okay. So it's not other people and I know people want to be a victim. They want to tell me I'm wrong. They want to tell me I'm full of crap. You can do anything you want. I don't lie to you on here. I tell you the truth. So if you really want to get better, you have to hear sometimes some hard truths. And I say them from love. I don't think there's something wrong with you. I don't think you're so screwed up. I think you've just been brainwashed into being a victim, that it's someone else's, which is why you would be insecure to begin with, that it's someone else that needs to make you feel good. It's external. It has to stop, right? So, and let me say this, if you're dealing with someone who's insecure, who's looking for constant validation and reassurance and assurance, I would like you to use, again, a we approach as much as you can. So you might suggest practicing mindfulness together. What a nice, mindfulness is a good way, and someone identifying their feelings, to notice their insecurity. You can help them identify these insecure feelings and where they come from and all that. Mindfulness is a great practice to get there. You could do it too. I have a client I'm working with now who has a partner, and we talked about who has some stuff with more reactive. He's more reactive with things than she is, and I was like, well, why don't you all, maybe even the whole family, practice more breathing techniques? Stopping to take a breath. It's like, it doesn't even have to be just my client and her hubby. It could be their kids, right? There's a way to make things a we, and to take the criticalness or the, what feels like judgment for people off. And to, again, really, to me, this is the most beautiful thing, right? This is really a good way to support, not to tell them that you do love them 50 times, but to say, hey, what if we did this thing together? It's a we issue. I love you. I want us to get past this. Why don't we start practicing mindfulness together? Why don't we start setting intention every day together and check in about it, right? Do you see where I'm going here? Are you picking up what I'm laying down, right? This is what I'm talking about. There is a way to do this without blame, without judgment, without criticism. And there is a way to approach it with compassion and curiosity. But I will say this. I've said all that, I know, but I will tell you that if someone's need for reassurance and validation affects your mental health or well-being, it is okay to reevaluate that relationship. It is. Can you be in this relationship? And that might be your mom, and that might be your partner, and that might be your sister. I don't know. But again, to me, with the appropriate boundaries, you can be in most relationships in a healthy way. But that takes some work. It does. So, and again, remember, you're not responsible for fixing anyone. You can only support them while taking care of yourself. That's it. Got it? Good. So, and I guess that's what I'll wrap up with that Insecurity is the other person's responsibility. It's not yours. It doesn't mean you can't support them in getting the help they need, but it does mean that you don't take ownership or blame for their issue. No matter your actions, you don't make others insecure. They need to focus on the inside, not the outside, right? Too many people try to base their feelings of security on external things, a partner, money, job, education, or how they look. But I always say it's like trying to fill a funnel. It never works because your feelings of security just leak out of the bottom. So you're always looking for more and never feel good in your moments, right? This person has to overcome their insecurity by liking themselves regardless of what's happening kind of out there. And I think that's a mic drop. I think that's the end of that. All right. So hopefully that was really helpful today. I hope I answered a lot of questions that folks had about this. And as promised, I want to say a few things about the Patreon. So yeah, Patreon is, and if people don't know what Patreon is, I will be supplying links and all that stuff in early January or by early January, maybe even the last week of December, we'll see, to my Patreon so you can start signing up. And again, there's going to be 3 tiers for Patreon. And again, it's just an online community. It's a place where I get more access to you and you do to me. It's a place where you can start to feel a real community. So many of you write in and you have the same issues. I can't tell you, I'll get 100 emails, no joke, with the exact same question. And it's really what prompted me to start thinking about, wow, what if we were all together? What if you could talk to each other and say, hey, I tried this and this worked, or I tried that and that worked, or gosh, was Abby on crack when she said to do this? She's so crazy. I don't know. Whatever it is, I'm not. I haven't done drugs in a long time. But you know what I'm saying? So to me, I saw it as a place and ultimately where I could spend even more and more time. But of course, I have to earn money. I have to feed myself and my family. So this is a way to me with a low price point entry to be able to, even if you're in a place where you can't access therapy or you don't have enough money for therapy or enough time each week, that you could actually, for like $100 a year at the most, get, kind of therapy in a way, right? And that's always been one of my missions of the podcast is to be able to give you, a lot of people can't afford to meet with me individually and nor do I have the time to meet with everybody. So I always have a wait list, all the things. So, this is a way, or I hear a lot, I can't find anyone who's like you. Well, and you speak to me the best. All right, let's get in community together. And believe it or not, other people who like me, if you like me and other people like me, guess what? You're probably going to like them. So there'll be a tier, again, starting in the second week of January, or is that the second week? The 13th, starting the week of January 13th. We will have, so those first 2 weeks of the month are going to be free. You're going to have to join and put in your credit card or whatever it is, but the billing won't start until February. So it's like a 2-week trial. You'll have time to get out. If you see what's in there and you're like, this is crap, I don't like it. I don't want you there if you don't like it. I really don't. I plan to overgive in this community. I plan with everything I'm telling you. That's the baseline of what you're going to get. I know me and I'm always, I want you to feel like this is such a rich, incredible place you would never leave because I don't ever want to leave, So for $5 a month, tier 1, you'll get the podcast audio only. So if you watch me on YouTube or something else, that's not going to get you there. But we're going to start with all of season 7, or we're going to get there soon with all of season 7. So with no ads. So you'll have no ads. Hopefully from the beginning of season 7, we're starting in August. That's our goal. But at the very least from January on, and we'll get back to season 7. No ads. That's number 1. Number 2, there'll be early drops of the podcast the Friday before. That's going to be always our goal. 3, you're going to have access to the online community group. And I'm still naming that. Thank you for your name suggestions. Oh my God. So good. So good. One Love was one of them. Oh my God. You guys are brilliant. Keep dropping them in the comments if you see it on YouTube, or send me an email at abby@abbymedcalf.com. Go to the Let's Connect page on my website. Do it there. I love your ideas for names for our online community. It's like really exciting. And please, nothing with my name. I don't want like Abby's Army. Like, no thanks. I want it to be about us, not about me. So a name that really sums up who we are online together. Okay. So that's what I'm looking for. And then there's going to be, every episode is going to have sort of its own folder for all the worksheets, the downloads, the links to research. So you don't have to navigate. You don't have to go to the website and go to, any download I have for that episode. We call those lead magnets, but any sort of download I have for an episode, again, any links, anything like that is all going to be in one place. You don't have to go look, nothing. All that for $5 a month. I know. And then if you pay $8 a month, you get everything you got in tier 1. And you also get a live Q&A with me. It's going to be once a month. It's going to be the second Wednesday at 12 p.m. Pacific, and it'll be taped, of course. So if you can't make it, you can listen to it later or watch it later, and it will also be videoed. So you'll see a video of me, or you can just listen. And there'll be digital journal prompts or maybe some other bonus action tips for every episode so you can go deeper. If you're that person who really wants to treat this like therapy and get to some underlying things, then there will be more for you there, okay? $8 a month. And then $12 a month, which is kind of the top tier, is everything in those first 2 tiers, but you get twice a month live Q&As with me, which are going to, again, now be the second and fourth Wednesday at 12 p.m. Of every month. And you're going to also get some sort of, I'm going to do some kind of visualization every month, like just a couple 3-minute, maybe sometimes longer audio to like help stop negative thinking or to help you feel good about yourself, to have a good day, whatever I'm dreaming about is going to be there just as a little extra fun thing for you to have that maybe you listen to for that week or that month. I mean, obviously over time, there'll be many of these as they add up. And also you get my Learn to Meditate for 15 minutes in 15 days class included for free, which is normally, I'm trying to remember, I think it's $11.11 on the website. So you get that. And if you already have that, you let me know because maybe I'll find something else fun for you to have as with that. And then if you prepay for any of those levels, for the $5, the $8, the $12, doesn't matter. If you prepay for the year, you will get, it's called 5 to Thrive Relationship Edition. I'm going to create many of these. And what it is 5 minutes a week. It's all you need. This is about relationships, to improve your relationships. And I'm really excited about it. It's going to be an email once a week. I have them all done. It's all done. I can't wait to give this and it's going to cost $19.99 on the website if you want to buy it. Otherwise, but you'll get it, you get it for free if you prepay for the year. And it's a weekly email for a year. So 52 lessons is what you're getting, which only take 5 minutes a week. You could do 5 minutes a day if that's what you like to do. Again, if you want to see some stuff as therapy and really be substituting. But I guarantee that in 5 minutes a week, so you could just read the email and think about the one thing I'm going to tell you to think about that week and what to focus on and concentrate on. That's it. That's it. And there's going to be a different lesson every week. I'm trying to make this so easy for people, so simple to do that you actually do it. Because that's the important part, is that every week for a year, imagine how good you'll feel at the end of that year. If you know it's just a few minutes, and they're probably less than 5 minutes, frankly, that you're just going to read it and get that lesson and write it somewhere and keep it with you. There will be more. There'll be journaling prompts. There'll be other things with every lesson. So if you want to spend 5 minutes a day, you could. There'll be little reflection exercises. I'm going to give, because you know me, I'm always over giving. There'll be more, but you don't have to do more. You just do that first thing I said in the 5 minutes, you're all set. But if you want to do 5 minutes 3 times a week, if you want to do whatever, you could, and you could go deeper. So that's all going to be included. The 5 to Thrive Relationship Edition will be included if you prepay for the year. So there you go. I'm really excited about it. I'm really excited about it. I don't know what else to say. I feel like it's going to be just an awesome opportunity to get to know you better, for you to get to know me better. I can't wait to hear about, what else do you want in there? Maybe I do those audios and you go, I don't really want those. We want another one of this. I don't know. You're going to be the early people in. So depending if you are, so you'll be able to help mold the community for things that you want, for things that you don't like, for things that you like more of, where we can talk about how to really make it work for everybody. So I'm pretty excited about it. I can't wait to start. I really can't wait to start. I'm like so looking forward to it. All right, that is it for today. Hopefully you got everything you need. If no one told you today, I love you. I love you. I love this community. I'm so grateful. So grateful for it. Not going to cry today. It just really means a lot to me to have this space, and we're in our 7th year going to 2025. I just can't believe it. It's just been beautiful. And now we're at millions of downloads and people across the world. And I couldn't have dreamt you. I really couldn't have dreamt you. And here you are. So love you so much. And I'll talk to you next week.